I got on set. I don't know if this was a decision they made beforehand, but they're like, you get to beat him up. And I was like, I get to beat up Shah Rukh Khan? And yeah, they're like, go ahead.
Meet Jeff Goldberg. Originally from New York, he lived in Paris for 10 years and has now resided in India for more than a decade. Jeff writes movie scripts, directs films and runs his own studio in Mumbai. He shared the main differences between India and America, the biggest misconceptions about Bollywood in the West, and why Indian society functions on shame. I'm Max, a Russian entrepreneur and YouTuber based in Singapore. Let's go.
There is a very, 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 very busy intersection in a place called Bandra. It's actually like a 4 or 5 roads meet intersection. Yeah. And you've got hundreds of cars. I was at the corner near Lucky Restaurant trying to cross over, and a traffic cop, literally, this is like the first day I was in Mumbai, stopped traffic in all directions and let me walk across the street. And as I was crossing the street, he shook my hand and he said, "Welcome in India." And
wow.
Yeah, and he escorted me to the other side of the road. And you know, at the time, I wasn't sure if that was a common thing or an uncommon thing, but I can tell you all these years later that when I tell that story to people, no one believes me. Yeah, that was a pretty funny story, and that was definitely something that is unique and it stands out from all those years ago, for sure.
There's like a moment from the movie.
Yeah.
So everything just stopped.
Yeah.
Hold for a second.
He stopped the whole intersection.
Why do you think people are so obsessed with big actors like Shah Rukh Khan, with like Bollywood stars in general? It feels like they treat them like semi-gods, like more than, let's say, Hollywood celebrities.
Indian culture is the Judeo-Christian ethic that holds the West together is also tethered to, you know, Greek and Roman antiquity, right? And that's all. Individualist society, that is the West, is one that's built on the monolith of guilt, right? You know, so the idea, like in Christian society, is you can go to, you know, church, or Catholic society, you can go to church and repent your sins, or even Jews or Muslims who can do that. There's this whole, like, individual relationship with your actions, your beliefs, God and sin. And even though a lot of people don't even believe that anymore, that's kind of what the whole culture is built on. Here, it's not like that. Here, it's a very collective society. And collective societies don't function on guilt, they function on shame. And shame is a very, very different thing, okay? Because that's more of a societal thing. You know, the society's gonna think of you this way, or people are gonna view you this way, people are gonna view us this way, family honor. And that's a lot more entrenched in the society. And as you take those two ideas and build them outwards, okay, you start to see individualist society is about who you are from day one all the way through your whole life. Collective society is about who you are in this huge ocean of people, or in this pond of people, right? And that creates different sort of aspirations and different sort of ideas about who you are, what you are. And in a collective society, anybody who is able to rise to a certain level, that becomes really aspirational. And that not only becomes aspirational and that I want to get there, it's also, hey man, that person represents us everywhere. This person is a voice and a leader of not just himself. You know, people don't view Brad Pitt, say, or, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio like they represent them.
Of the US culture.
But you can be sure Shah Rukh Khan represents India. You can be sure Amir Khan represents India. And you can be sure that they know that. They're fully aware of that, that they are part of that puzzle and they feel this connection. So I think that one of the reasons people create this deification is that it's not so much deification, it's that someone doing well in the society is us doing well. I'm doing well. And that makes them feel great. You know, you see that like when Indian athletes excel at the Olympics, or, you know, right now we have the Cricket World Cup, you know, there's this sense of like really incredibly visceral pride and satisfaction that a lot of people feel. And I think it also has to do with aspirational. India is a very aspirational place. It's about achieving something. And, you know, when you see somebody who has done that, that achievement is something that people admire very, very, very deeply. And then finally, India is a place where religion and faith are part of everyday conversation. In the West, especially since the 19th century, when, you know, different philosophical debates came in and started to push religion to the margins, you know, for us, we go to church, we go to synagogue, we go to the mosque, right? We go to places when we want to. So God lives down the street in that cathedral, right? Here, God is everywhere. God is everywhere. I mean, you go out on the streets and you'll see images of different gods everywhere. Festivals, idols. Religion is part of everyday life. And people here have not separated the two, which is really beautiful and interesting, okay? In the religions that thrive here, you have stories like the Ramayana, the Bhagavad Gita, which talk about ideals and are moral lessons, and they're personified by the characters in those stories. And those people are like actually things that are not far away from you. People feel them very, very close to themselves.
Yeah.
And the movie stars are kind of an extension of that, right? It's kind of an extension of that. Here's this person who's doing something exceptional, and that the leap from the faith to the modern context it's not a hurdle that's so high. In the West, we've compartmentalized things much, much more.
What exactly did you do with, let's say, Shah Rukh Khan on Kapoor?
In the case of Anil Kapoor, I was helping prepare him for an audition that he had in the US. So that was good fun. And in the case of Shah Rukh, I was acting with him in the film Pathan. And this is a fun story. I got on set, of course, and I had my lines, and I knew what I was more or less doing. But there's a scene when he's thrown into a Russian prison, and he gets tortured, and they're torturing him, And I don't know if this was a decision they made beforehand and hadn't told me, or they made on the fly, but they're like, you get to beat him up. And I was like, I get to beat up Shah Rukh Khan? And yeah, they're like, go ahead. And they didn't, obviously they didn't say it was all choreographed, but I had to punch him, and it was like this whole big thing, like his big security guards came over and showed me how to do this. This guy was like, 2 meters, 10, and like probably 100 kilos, and he's like, you do it like this, And I was like, okay, and he's sitting there, and and it was really cool because at one point, he does it. They kept speaking to me in pronouns, and finally, Shah Rukh, like in the middle, the whole thing. This is really cool. There's like 30 people around, the camera team and everything. He's like, he has a name, and he looks at me, stops everyone. He's like, he has a name. He looks at me, he's like, what's your name, man? I was like, I'm Jeff. He's like, hi, I'm Shah Rukh. I'm like, it's nice to meet you, man. He's like, it's really cool. And, people talk about how cool he is, and honestly, he is. He really, really is. He's extremely human. He's a really, really terrific guy. And that was, what I had to do. I had to punch Shah Rukh Khan. And then funnily enough, when the film came out in the cinema, that scene had been edited and that part was out. So I was like, oh, bummer, man. But then it came on to, it was on, I believe it was on Amazon Prime, and they had an extended version. I was like, I gotta look at this. So I went and looked, and there it was, me punching Shah Rukh, and I was like, yes, nice. I got it. So it's immortalized on Amazon Prime, perhaps not in the cinemas.
I personally enjoy watching a good movie. Among my recent favorites are The Whale, Triangle of Sadness, and Barbie. Keep it a secret. But I have no idea how to produce films. What I do know really well is how to launch a YouTube channel and make it big and profitable. I'm running a 3-day online workshop where you will discover your unique niche along with its profit potential, overcome your fears like being camera shy or fearing judgment from others, and receive a comprehensive roadmap to create your own project using YouTube as a vehicle to generate passive income. The cost of the workshop is minimal compared to the results you can achieve. Click the link below and sign up for the workshop.
What's the misconception about Bollywood as an industry, about films in Bollywood, like from the West? Like what people don't understand about Bollywood?
I was having this conversation recently with someone, an Indian filmmaker, and he said something that I thought was really succinct and interesting, which is, we today see people trying to make Western cinema with Indian topics. And, so they're using really technical things like 3-act structure, which is a very Western model of filmmaking. They're not using songs and dance. They're making films that, could easily be set anywhere in the world, but they're Indian topics. And mind you, they're beautiful films. They're beautiful, beautiful films. But Bollywood's cinematic language is 5-act structure, larger than life, songs and dance, what they call item numbers. And I think that one of the things that people, I don't want to say don't understand, but maybe aren't super appreciative of, is that language of cinema, whilst it's maybe not what you're used to, still actually has a place in the canon of cinema. and we should be able to try it. And of course, it's like the first time the first time you drink whiskey, or the first time you drink beer, or the first time you hear jazz, you might not like it, but that doesn't mean it's not good, right? You've got to develop a taste for it. And as you develop a taste for it, and as you start to understand the layers of it, your appreciation of it grows. And, one of the things that I often say is people have to not think of Bollywood only as an industry. Many people in the Hindi film industry don't like that term, Bollywood. They find it pejorative. They find it, a little too judgy. I mean, they use it themselves maybe, but they don't really love it. Yeah. But the Hindi film industry, or the Indian film industries, because there are many of them, they have a language of cinema and storytelling that is valid and is theirs. And yeah, maybe they structure the films differently. Maybe they treat logic in the films differently. Maybe they introduce, emotional points through song. But that's just a different way to tell a story. And I think that people misunderstand that is just a different language of cinema. And I often tell people that you have to think of Bollywood cinema not just as an industry, like as a genre of cinema, like drama, comedy, horror, Bollywood. And, when you start to look at genres of films, you understand that they have tropes, certain set pieces. Like, so horror films will have, like, music will be really important, sound will really be important, the use of light and camera will be done in a certain way. Film noir, crime films, they're done a certain way. Comedies, they have certain tropes, right? Certain types, they're in their sub-genres. Bollywood is a genre. And when you start to understand that Bollywood is like 5-act structure, it has item number songs and dances, and you start to decrypt the films that way, it becomes really fascinating, and there are some incredibly brilliant filmmakers in that space. The one that I always tell people, if you really want to take a look at, like, in my view, this is just my opinion, the master of contemporary Bollywood cinema, you have to check out the films of the filmmaker who made Devdas. His name is Sanjay Leela Bhansali. His films are like, the gold standard, as far as I'm concerned, of the Bollywood genre. And he's got some films that are just outstanding. The one I just mentioned, Devdas, would be the one I think that people should start with. But once you take a look at his stuff, you'll just see the majesty of what, Bollywood cinema could be.
Some people, like in the comments, express their opinion about Slumdog Millionaire. That is a horrible movie that actually ruined the reputation of India.
Oh boy, that's a controversial topic right there. I get both points of view. Being an American from the West, I understand why Hollywood embraced that film. And being a filmmaker, hats off to Danny Boyle and his team and what they did. And of course, some of the people, many of the people who worked on the film, certainly many of the actors, are Indians themselves. But do I agree with that more Desi perspective that the film is not representative of India or Indian cinema? Yes, wholeheartedly. I get it. I fully get it. In the world of cinema, we talk about the male gaze a lot. The idea that the camera is being used as an eye, a Russian word, kino eye. The idea of the kino eye looking at the woman in this male gaze kind of way. We talk about that a lot. And today you see people trying to change that. Women filmmakers, and thank God there are more of them. You see people trying to have some evolution in that, right? I think that's something that's less spoken about, certainly spoken about, but not as regularly, and perhaps that's a problem, is the Western gaze. The kino eye that looks at the world through the prism of a certain set of values, a certain set of ideas, preconceived notions, and Slumdog Millionaire falls into that category. It does. That's inevitably a truth that you have to accept. And that's not to suggest that Danny Boyle didn't do a great job. It's to say that Danny Boyle hasn't lived here for years and years and years. And Indian culture is not something that you can just have a threadbare novice understanding of and represent. That's just a fact. You have to be in it to really understand it, because it is a 5,000-year unbroken chain of culture. And Indians have every right to feel great about that. And they should. And do I think that Slumdog missed the point? Yeah, I do. Does that mean it's a bad film? No, it's not. Do I think it's a film where you can have a wide variety of opinions? Obviously. But do I think that the Western gaze is in full effect with that film? For sure, 100%. Dev Patel, great actor. Great actor. Love Dev Patel. But do I believe Dev Patel as a street kid from Mumbai? No, I don't. Why? Because I meet street kids from Mumbai. I can walk downstairs and meet a street kid from Mumbai. And there's just a certain cultural flavor that goes with that. And that authenticity is real for people. And if they don't feel that authenticity in the character, then something's going to go awry. Something's not going to work. That doesn't mean that Dev didn't do a great job as an actor. It just means that that cultural seed was missing. You know, it's kind of like, you know, I'm sure Russians, when they watch The Hunt for Red October with Sean Connery, laughed. Because it's like, why is this Scottish guy playing a Soviet, you know, submarine captain, right? And I'm sure, you know, other cultures, when they watch the Americans, you know, what America does is this. If they want to have a character who's anything but American, they just cast a British actor, because British sounds foreign. You know, at least that's what they used to do. Yeah. And you know, no disrespect, but it's like, guys, you know, if you're going to do the work, right? And in the case of Slumdog, I think that Indians, and I get fully why they feel this way, I think they're correct, that it is the Western gaze and that it misses the cultural items that are important to them, and it should. And as a film that went on to be an Academy Award winner all over the world, everywhere at a time, you know, everyone was singing, you know, the songs by A.R. Rahman. It was an opportunity to present that culture to the world, and they just didn't feel like it was theirs. They felt like a packaged version, and that bothered them, and I completely empathize with that.
How India shaped you personally, like shaped your personality?
India taught me, I think, maybe one of the most important things I've ever learned, which is to unlearn, to not try to understand things all the time, or not to understand them immediately. You know, our education systems are designed where question, answer, and that's, okay, 1 + 1 makes 2 of these. India challenges you in every way. All 5 senses are awake all the time. It's louder and quieter. It's pleasant smelling and it's unpleasant smelling. It's hot and it's cold. You know, your senses are on fire when you're here. But that's just one aspect of it, in that you're constantly challenged here. And your normal 1 + 1 paradigms fall apart really quickly. And it teaches you to unlearn. And in the unlearning process, the first lesson that you have to internalize is patience. And India has made me a much more patient person, and I have benefited from that enormously. India has challenged me in every way that I could ever have hoped to have been challenged. And I'll add this, because spirituality is everywhere, you can't help but internalize that. You can't help but become interested in that. You can't help but want to learn about that. And I have benefited from that, in that it has made me a lot more grounded. It's connected me much deeper to things that have always been part of my life, but also introduced me to new things. That is just the journey that I've begun and I continue down. And I'm very, very grateful to this place and the teachers I've had here who've given me those opportunities. It's grounded me.
What's the main skill, apart of craft, that everyone should learn to be successful in life?
I think the thing you need to learn along the way is how to read. That's the skill that you need. And I know that's, you know, going back to like everyone's first grade when they were 6 or 7 years old. But I think the thing to be successful, I mean, I don't know if this is actually the thing, but one of the things that has always guided me and I think is really important is reading. And I won't even talk about the importance of reading and literature and all that, you know, highfalutin stuff, which, you know, could get really boring or make you feel intellectual. It's incredible what we've written down. It's unbelievable what we've been able to create with knowledge, learning, stories. And that is not just our legacy, it's also our future. And I think that you hear about, you know, CEOs read books, you know, read. Reading is where it's at. There is no substitute for that. I think that's really, really, really important. I don't know that that's going to make you a success, but I think it's going to enrich your life. And people say, oh, you know, but Jeff, I'm such a slow reader. So what? It's not a competition. I mean, I don't know, like, I mean, is someone in your bedroom like, okay, go. Oh, no, start again. You know, no, I mean, you know, like, yeah, in school you have to read a book because the next week you have a test on it. And I think that messes people's minds up because they start thinking like, oh, I have to read. Dude, you do you. If it takes you a year to read a 300-page book, take it. If you want to read a page a day and your book is 365 pages, that's awesome. There's no rush in how long it takes you to read. And I think that reading will not only enrich your learning, your understanding, your imagination, but also your ability to empathize with other people and your ability to like actually care for others. You know, I think the biggest crisis we have today is a crisis of humanity. You know, nobody talks about the humanities anymore. Remember like back in school, like the humanities, like science and math, you know, those are functional things, but the humanities are literature and art. And the humanities are called that because they are human beings have created, and we've lost that touch of the humanities and caring about each other. And who cares about our national borders? Who cares about the languages we speak? Who cares about the religions we believe in? You know, when you subtract all of that, you arrive at human on earth, and we share that with everybody. When you subtract all the labels you apply to yourself and the individualist ideas you have about yourself, and you arrive at human on earth, that's pretty all-encompassing. And I don't think, to come back to my lesson of India, I don't think life is a game of addition. I think life is a game of subtraction. I think the more you subtract your ideas of yourself and the more you subtract the labels of yourself, the more you arrive at a mutual understanding of the person in front of you, the people around you, and the life you're leading. And I love that. And I think that's very important. So I think reading helps that. And I think that reading enables you to be, and again, to use the word success. You know, success, people think billionaire, right? That's like the modern avatar of success. I don't necessarily agree. I think success is a good friend, a good citizen, a good neighbor, a good father, a good son, a good daughter, a caring person in your society, contributing. Those are successes. And I don't think that this obsession of your bank balance representing your self-worth is healthy. Again, I think reading helps contextualize that.
What's the meaning of life for you?
I asked my mom that question once, and she said to me, family. And that hit me right between the eyes because, you know, I was like, all right, Mom, I got you. The meaning of life, there are so many ways to answer that. I think the meaning of life is finding what it is you do that helps you feel connected to your soul. That's it. I don't know what that is. Some people it's taking care of their kids, and some people it's making YouTube videos, and some people it's making films, and some people it's spreadsheets, and some people it's financial markets. And I think that we spend far too much time judging what people love and what brings them closer to their soul. And I think the meaning of life is finding what it is you can do to bring yourself closer to that sense of your soul and yourself, because that's going to make you feel whole and satisfied. And when you're excited about that in the positive way, all you want to do is share that and be the best person you can be to those whom you love and to those who you may not even know. For me, the meaning of life is just feeling close to my soul. And that's what the journey is for me. I can't speak for anyone else, and I would never dare to about something so absolutely precious and sensitive. But in the case of my mother, to go back to family, I know that's her soul. That's who she is. She's a mom, she's a sister, she's a grandmother, she's a wife. As an artist, it's about the creation of that for me. But it's also very much about family and friends. Not just your given family, your chosen family. You know, you get to choose your brothers and sisters and moms and dads and cousins and stuff like that as you grow old. You know, you get to do that, and that's kind of cool too. But I think that the meaning of life is, and maybe that's why, you know, for the first several 100,000 years of human existence, so much time and investment was put into spirituality, because we've always kind of known this. And I think we do. And I'm a little bit nervous about today, meaning the world today, because these conversations, you start talking about religion and God and soul, and people get really freaked out. You know, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to even think about it. And that's unfortunate, because maybe, just maybe, there is something there, you know, and it doesn't mean that one religion or one people is right, because that's absolutely false. But I think that there is something to this idea that how we express ourselves is the closest form of prayer we ever can have. And that's why Tarkovsky's actually my favorite filmmaker, is because when you watch his films, and his films are not for like novices. You can't like just jump in and watch a Tarkovsky movie, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I watched terrible comedies and, action films. You can't go from like Bad Boys with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence and then turn around and watch Solaris or, Andrei Rublev. I mean, you can, but it's going to be a bit jarring. But what I'm saying is, and you don't even have to like his films. It's not the point. Like, it's very funny. My brother and I watched completely different types of movies. But is there quality in what he watched? Of course, of course. But I just think that lesson of watching an artist do something at that level and with that clarity of, this is how I pray, this is how I meditate, this is how I feel close to myself. I think that's beautiful. And it doesn't just have to be the arts. I think there's artistry in everything, man. Like, chefs are artists. Bankers can be artists. And lawyers are artists. There's a degree of artistry in everything we do. And if that's who you are, and that's what makes you who you are, and that is so beautiful. The meaning of life, it's up to you.